Well, Senate Republican is looking to issue the first subpoena in the GOP investigation into the Ukrainian natural gas company Burisma and the Biden family. Wisconsin's Ron Johnson sent a letter to the Senate Homeland Security Committee this week. He detailed plans to schedule a vote on subpoenaing former Ukrainian diplomat Andrei Telizhenko. He worked for a political consulting company called Blue Star Strategies. He was a representative for Burisma in the United States. According to the Washington Post, the diplomat has fueled the debunked theory that Ukraine assisted former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton in the 2016 election with the help from the Democratic National Committee. The DNC denies those claims. Senator Johnson says he recently received State Department records that back up elements of Telizhenko's story. On Fox News last night, President Trump said Ukraine and the Bidens will, quote, be a major issue in the campaign and that he plans to bring it up all the time. On Capitol Hill today, Utah Republican Senator Mitt Romney criticized the appearance of the investigation.
There's no question but that the appearance of looking into Burisma and Hunter Biden appears political. And I think people are tired of these kind of political investigations and would hope that if there's something of significance that needs to be evaluated, that it would be done by perhaps the FBI or some other agency that's not as political as perhaps a committee of our body.
CBS News senior investigative correspondent Catherine Herridge was the first to obtain Johnson's letter. She joins me now from our Washington bureau. So, Catherine, I know this can be such a murky, when you're talking about the details, it is really in depth. Can you step back for just a second and revisit the facts? What actually happened with the Bidens and Ukraine? What do we know?
Well, Rena, to simplify, the most important dates are 2015 and 2016, so the period leading up to the last presidential election. Then Vice President Joe Biden was the administration's point person for Ukraine and fighting corruption in that nation. And at the same time, his son, Hunter Biden, was sitting on the board of this energy firm called Burisma, and he was receiving $50,000 a month for that consulting. And what the vice president recently told the New York Times is that he only became aware of his son's position on that board sometime after the fact. So what the Senate investigators are trying to determine is whether it's just the appearance of a conflict of interest or whether there was an actual conflict of interest and whether there was an effort to use Hunter Biden's position to leverage different outcomes, Rena.
Catherine, what exactly is the scope of the Republican Senate investigation? What do they want to find out?
Well, the Senate investigators who are controlling the Republican House Government Oversight Committee say that it's not just about Hunter Biden. They're looking at broader issues of corruption in Ukraine. They also say they're looking at the role or possible role of the DNC. But Senator Johnson is saying very publicly that he just wants to get to the facts of what happened. He wants to understand whether there was corruption, or if there wasn't corruption. He just wants to know what the fact pattern is. And to that point, the National Archives has recently notified that committee that they have 10,000 plus pages of records that are responsive to his requests about Ukraine. So we're talking about a lot of paperwork and a lot of investigation. But at least in the short term, what Johnson says he's hoping to do is issue some kind of interim report when they have information, not just from witnesses, but it's backed up by the paper record to bring people up to date on the progress the investigation is making. And of course, this goes to the issue of timing. It's all coming to a head now after the former vice president has really surged in the polling.
Yeah, you know, I wanted to ask you about that, Catherine, because this letter you obtained from Johnson, the way it looks to me is it's been in the works for over a year now. So it's 2 days after he surged in Super Tuesday. Why now?
Well, you know, timing is everything. Based on the congressional records that I've been able to review here at CBS News, the discussion of a subpoena for this key witness, Telizhenko, really came to a head in February. And a few days before the South Carolina primary, there was a formal request from the committee chairman, Ron Johnson, to the ranking Democrat, Gary Peters, to say, I want to do this subpoena. Are we able to go forward? But Peters objected, and now they're going to have what's called a business meeting to decide if the subpoena can be issued. So this was going on before South Carolina, but it's coming to a head now after South Carolina.
And what's been the Democratic response to all of this?
Well, the Democrats are calling out the timing. They say it's political, that these issues have been already litigated. And the Democratic chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, Adam Schiff, has threatened to use his perch as the chairman of that committee to call out what he described as bogus Russian narratives on the issue of Ukraine and the Democrats, Rena.
Catherine Herridge from our DC Bureau. Catherine, thank you very much.
You're welcome.